Hello, greetings to the Commissioner of Education, Ms. Brenda Casilius, and the Minnesota Board of Education. My name is WBean. I am a graduate student of North Central University, where I am studying for my Master's of Education, and with an emphasis in early childhood education. I am also the founder of the Called 518, which is an unincorporated nonprofit association geared towards teaching youth ages 9 to 21 years of age basic financial literacy. In conjunction, I am in the process of launching Bundles of Joy Early Childhood Education Center. It is a preschool whose mission it is to introduce youth to Jesus Christ and to provide a really multicultural, anti-bias, inclusive educational experience with a very sturdy financial literacy foundation. And I have done that because I noticed that society just needs it. So that is the reason I am contacting you here today to address the issue of curriculum based on financial literacy, particularly as it is outlined in the Education Commission of the state's Educational Trends List for 2017. Now, we all know here in Minnesota that 2017 was an awesome year for our youth in that Governor Dayton was able to secure full-day preschool for our 5-year-olds, which is absolutely awesome. In conjunction to that, according to your website, the governor was able to increase in-state funding for quality child care, pre-K, and other early childhood enhancements, reminding the people here of Minnesota that the Minnesota government has not forgotten about us, and that you guys are there for us, and that you're willing to meet us where we are, both financially and educationally. And we just want to say thank you for that, because being a recipient of the full-day kindergarten program is awesome. My little girl will be attending kindergarten this year for the first time, and I don't have to be overly concerned about daycare and things like that anymore. Just a couple of hours here before school starts, but that's okay. We can manage that. So at any rate, having those resources in place for our children and our families will not only benefit us as a whole, but also the entire state of Minnesota, not just families with children. And again, we just really want to thank you guys for stepping up and making sure that we are secure in that. Now, as wonderful as those new resources have and will be, they just really pale in comparison to what is really truly needed for Americans, Minnesotans, to thrive in our capitalist society. Now, statistically, we have many statistical analysis across the board that reveal dire straits that await American youth of all ethnicities who are not taught just even basic financial literacy. And it's funny because many families believe that they are financially literate and that they can manage these, everyday occurrences, very well, but statistics show otherwise. And so not being able to do that effectively affects so many different areas of life, including marriage and births and just the home ownership, the whole gamut. So, for example, the Brookings Institute reported nearly 41% of young to middle-aged married women from the dominant culture had husbands with similar education, and just about 32% of women from subgroups did as well. The Brookings Institute also reported about 48% of women from the dominant culture had husbands with lower levels of education attainment, and close to 60% of certain subgroups had spouses with less education, which could result in certain American households earning about $25,000 less a year due to lack of knowledge, according to that institute. And we mean lack of financial knowledge because of people not being taught schools not teaching them, parents not really grasping the concept and teaching their children. And so in general, about $25,000 can be earned less for certain households. In other words, education increases the chance of marriage, which leads to higher incomes. So in 2016, the total number of unmarried people of all ethnicities in Minnesota was about 348,000, or roughly 28% of the Minnesota population. That number for Americans in general reached a staggering 24,267 people. That's about 35% of the entire population, and that has caused fiscal problems that financial literacy could have decreased quite a bit. The educational system in Minnesota and across America, for that matter, must begin to teach youth the financial skills needed to survive and rebuild fiscally strong communities. Now, opting out of marriage, the blueprint for financial stability, has a tremendous effect on socioeconomic status for Americans. And symptoms of financial literacy, impulsive spending, for instance, lack of budgeting, cyclical negative bank accounts. I think we've all been there at some point or another. Credit card debt. Who doesn't have credit card debt? Confusion, hostility, jealousy of others who are more stable or understand these systems better. Over competitiveness, keeping up with the Joneses, even though debt is up to your eyeballs. Grandiose beliefs and out of wedlock births could all be stopped early through education. And we know that unmarried parents tend to have less education. They tend to live at or below the poverty level and fall short of home ownership. This is known throughout circles who need to know this information, and I'm sure you know these things. But I believe it's good to be reminded from time to time, just to get the spark going, in a direction that will be most beneficial for everyone. And that those parents, parents and people who, suffer from these symptoms, it's not going away. It's climbing steadily until it's really going to be really, really terrible for our population here in a little bit. So, let's see. The American Community Survey of 2015 said 546,000 Minnesotans, including 165,000 children under the age of 18, still had family incomes below the poverty level threshold. Below the poverty level threshold in 2015. That's approximately $24,300 for a family of 4. Among children, poverty rates were highest for, here we go, we know this, blacks at 39%, American Indians at 28%, and Hispanics at 26%. Many middle-class Americans, like I said earlier, they really feel like they are managing their resources, financial resources well. But in 2012, 52.2 million people, 52.2 million people in America were recipients of the welfare system. Out of all listed categories, married households were the lowest at 14.7%. This information aligns with the study done by the Pew Research Center in 2010. Pew reported that marriage rates are declining in America at the same time poverty rates are increasing. That's no coincidence. So, what's the solution? How do we get around this? I know that you all have been tackling this more than likely, and it just hasn't, surfaced, and the average person doesn't hear about it. I'm sure this is the case for many states across America, but for some reason it is just kind of swept under the rug and pushed on off to the side. But I am here to sound the alarm from we the people, all people, that this institution, this financial institution, an issue needs to be brought to the forefront in conjunction with other issues that are going on, like full day daycare, childcare, early childhood education, kindergarten, and welfare systems, and the veterans hospital and their treatment of their vets and things like that. Financial literacy needs to be brought to the forefront as well. So the situation is glaringly obvious to me. Implement financial literacy into the education system starting at the elementary level in order to increase and stabilize financial security for our families. And the NASBE, Commission of 2006 really supported my claim here, and it was a while ago, but they said the earlier a student begins learning these concepts, the more opportunities schools will have to impact behavior. So the impact of behavior is paramount, to curbing the symptoms of financial literacy, and really eliminating them if it is possible to do. Doing that would decrease the welfare burden on various states, across the country. Here in Minnesota, where we really take care of our needy, but if we could teach them how to fish instead of putting fish on their plates, then I think it would be really, really awesome for the state and for the people. Therefore, states should consider infusing financial and investor education throughout the K through 12 curriculum. And again, that was the NASBE Commission of 2006. Now, in my opinion, ignoring the data would reveal serious cognitive dissonance between what the state says is most beneficial for our people and what the state delivers. Laws implemented across the country, such as the North Dakota 2013 Elementary Student Entrepreneurial Program,